Hey guys, it's Phil Cook. Just giving you guys a little update. I've been getting a lot of questions about recent events and my thoughts on certain situations. So I figured I'd answer three questions and address the UPS crash that happened, the the FAA shortages, or I should say the air traffic control shortages, and just going into the holidays. So if you don't know me, I'm an airline pilot. I fly cargo. I fly the 767, 757. I fly for a major company that primarily flies Amazon. We also fly DHL, UPS, and military contracts. So I'll start with the UPS crash. Now, obviously, it's pretty heartbreaking what happened. I've flown in and out of Louisville for 2 months straight during last holiday, covering for UPS from Seattle. And so I've been in and out of Louisville. It's a very busy airport, huge UPS hub. I'm sure all of the pilots down there are feeling it. The MD-11 is a very capable aircraft, and I've seen plenty of them fly in and out of pretty much a lot of the airports that I fly in and out of. Now, one of the important things about the UPS crash, if you don't know aviation, you're wondering how this works, is as pilots, we train a lot for loss of engine on takeoff. We call it a V1 cut. So we have speeds in which certain things have to happen. V1 is the speed basically the decision speed. When I brief takeoffs, typically we talk about when certain speeds happen. So to give you an example, my takeoff brief is typically, I work as a first officer, so typically we go 0 to 80 knots, master caution, master warning. So a master caution or master warning light illuminates, or on the captain's approved list, we see something, we say something, we'll make the decision to abort. Now, once we go, then I'll go 80 to V1. I'll say master caution. I'll say fire, loss of engine, loss of direction and directional control, if equipped predictive wind shear, and won't fly. Then we say V1, and this is critical, is whenever we have an issue after our V1 speed or our decision speed, there is no stopping on the runway. There is no stopping and trying to fix things. We always say V1, it's an airborne issue. So if we lose an engine, we lose a tire, we lose, we have some sort of major issue. If we're at V1, there's not enough time for us to stop on the runway. So we're left with basically two decisions. We're either going to try to stop and run a high risk of pretty much running off the runway and hitting whatever is at the end of the runway, or we've got to take that issue into the air and try to get back into the field we took off of. Now, depending on the issue, a lot of times, because pretty much once we hit V1, we're committed to taking off. And unfortunately for the UPS flight, it was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type moment. And that's what makes it so heartbreaking, is if they attempt, because after realizing they've lost an engine or they've had an engine fire, they basically had two choices. Try to get that plane in the air and try to deal with it, or pretty much just go off the end of the runway and collide with whatever's at the end of the runway. So with V1 cuts, we are taught that if we lose an engine after V1, you gotta just basically take that plane into the air, deal with the problem, and then try to come back into land. It's one of the most important things that we train on, is maneuvering the aircraft with a single engine. Now, the MD-11 has 3 engines, so it can fly with 2 engines, one of the wing engines and then the center engine, but it will struggle to fly with a single engine. Now, unfortunately, with the UPS accident, they got the worst possible situation. Not only are we required to have a working engine, but we're also required to have a component of lift. So the wings will generate lift even on a single engine. It won't be as much lift as two engines, but it will still lift up. And as you can see by the videos, the plane does get airborne, but the worst problem is they are suffering a catastrophic failure that not only damages that engine on the left wing, it also damaged the engine in the back, the second engine, and it damaged the wing, reducing its ability to generate lift. So unfortunately, it was the worst of a scenario that you can give a pilot. He's trying to do what he can. They've gotten to V1. They were at 180 knots, which is typically well past V1. And unfortunately, due to so much damage that they took, it was just impossible to get that aircraft into the air and keep that aircraft in the air. So this one, it's pretty sad, it's pretty hurts because, when a lot of accidents happen, a lot of pilots, we talk about it, we wonder what could have they done, what could they have done, what would we have done, what mistakes were made. And it's always a conversation, where in this situation, unfortunately, there is nothing they could have done. It was pretty much the worst thing that could have happened to an aircraft, to a crew, in the worst type of situation. Were they in the air, they could have gotten it in safely back on the ground, probably with one engine. Were this prior to V1, they most likely could have stopped that aircraft, and not gone off the end of the runway. But unfortunately, they were right at the threshold, or they were past the threshold of no point of return. So that's what makes it really sad. So, it sucks because, this is our business. It's any time you're in a business where there is a chance not only of losing your life, but of taking someone else's life. Nobody wants that. And we hop in those planes every day thinking about what's the worst that can happen. How can we mitigate risk? How can we make sure that everybody gets home safely? And this just really tells you that sometimes you can do everything right and it just doesn't work out for you. And so anybody who works in those kind of careers, they know that this is a risk they take every day. And so we just do whatever we can to mitigate that risk, whether it's doing a proper pre-flight and making sure that there are no mechanical issues, checking the logs, making sure that the maintenance was done, making sure that everything was properly looked at, documented, make sure that there were no mechanical failures that were previously talked about that may not have been addressed, things of that nature. But unfortunately, these things, they happen. We don't know exactly what caused this major malfunction, and having a massive catastrophic engine failure where literally you have a separation of the engine, again, is extremely unprecedented. Normally, if you've seen videos of engine fires in aircraft, typically the cowling or the cover of the engine stays intact. And when it stays intact, you just see fire coming out the back of the engine. Well, this was a complete separation of the engine, and seeing fire over the wing is extremely rare, extremely unusual. Also, you have to realize that these wings are very temperamental. We don't take off if we have ice on the wings, because even a thin layer of ice can disrupt the flow of air and reduce the capacity of the wing to generate lift. So that's why if we have ice, we make sure we de-ice every time. We don't take off with ice on the wing. So to have a massive fire, to have damage to the wing, loss of an engine, damage to the second engine, it was pretty much the worst thing that could happen. So that's my thoughts on the UPS disaster. My hearts and prayers go out to all of the employees, all of the family members, and those who were lost in this flight. This is sad because, I literally had a family member message me where she was like, we don't think of cargo aircraft going down. We think, of some sort of emergency with a passenger airline, and typically those are minor emergencies, or something that's unusual. Well, cargo, we fly every night, all the time. We're not out there, in congested airspaces. So to see something like this is pretty heartbreaking, but yeah, just know that we're all, very saddened by this loss. It's not just UPS, it's not just those who work with us, it's all the pilots. Whether you're flying passengers, whether you're flying cargo, it reminds you that there are things that happen in life, and we're just mortal beings. I'll do another video for my thoughts on the air traffic control and the holiday season. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them out in the comments. If you have any other insights that you're curious about, any other questions that I can answer. As far as my career's going, I'm still first officer. I'm beginning the year 3 at my company. I should have enough hours come this summer to finally bid for captain, so I'm excited about that. Other than that, just working, revolving schedules. Some flying a lot of nights, transitioning sometimes during the day. I'm currently in Seattle. If you were curious about my company, it's Air Transport International. We are hiring. They're not hiring as fast as they used to. We've got a lot of pilots from other companies such as Spirit that have been coming on board. So they are hiring. It is slower. We are short-staffed. For first officers. So if you are interested, feel free to put in your application. The only advice I can give you right now as far as our application process is, because things have slowed down, they're leaning more towards higher jet time employees. So if you spend some time at a regional, you're more likely to get hired than if you have no jet or just turboprop time. So be aware of that. We're currently still in contract negotiations, so hopefully we'll get higher pay here soon and get that finally done with. But it's a good company to work for. We have a pretty good schedule. We do 12 days on, 12 days off, and you can have a good amount of time off. Right now I'm sitting reserve, so I'm on call for about 8 hours every day for the next week. But it's been relatively slow. But we're going into the holiday season, and the holiday season typically gets much busier. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comment. Thanks for watching my video. You guys have a good holiday.